Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for making time for this. We're going to cover a lot in this workshop. And if you have the companion worksheet, that's the PDF, you'll want to reference that. If you don't have it, you can get it later. It's not a crisis if you don't have it in front of you. But I'm going to use it to basically structure our workshop and to go through the material. And then, of course, it all coincides with my new book coming out, Awakening Astrology, that has information about your astrology chart that I hope helps you go deeper into your energy, into who you are. And this book focuses on the 5 personal planets. Now, of course, the sun and the moon are luminaries, but we call them planets for the sake of conversation and communication, just to make it easier. But this book focuses on specifically your sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And that's basically what I'm going to dive into as well in our workshop here. And I know that some of you, you're advanced, you know a lot about your astrology, or some of you are brand new, you're beginners. So this will resonate with whatever knowledge base you're at and what you bring to the table. And the wonderful thing about astrology, you can always go deeper. You can always learn more. So I really hope that you get some good things out of this workshop, and that it just gives you some new ways to look at your energy, to understand more of who you are in this lifetime. So we're going to begin with your sun sign. And chances are that's where we all start with astrology, right? You learn your sun sign and you follow the horoscopes or things going on with it. But your sun sign is a really important part of your energy. It's literally the biggest light in our solar system, the sun. And it's a very intentional energy that you're working with at a soul level throughout your life. It's what you're constantly developing, learning, growing, understanding more of who you are through that sun sign energy. And what I want to offer you are more ways to harness energies that are available for you to work with based on your sun sign. So I'm going to use the example of sun in Taurus, because that's where the sun is, that's where we're doing this workshop. And so you would understand what that sun in Taurus energy is about for you, right? You would understand more of the basics of your sun sign. But astrology is a progression of energy. And so even though we focus on one thing, right, one sun sign, you're still connected to the full zodiac wheel. And what I want to offer you are some new ways to look at that zodiac wheel based on your sun sign. So one thing you'd want to make note of is that when you were born, you came through, you arrived, you can only have one sun sign, right? And so you chose that energy in this lifetime. But you are connected to that full stream of consciousness of the full zodiac. So something that you might not be aware of is that we have what I'm calling a blind spot energy, which is the astrological sign preceding your sun sign. So in my example of using Taurus, that blind spot would be Aries, which is the energy that the sun went through before you were born. You can remember what that energy is, meaning your sun is still connected to the preceding energy. And when you understand what that blind spot is, you can understand how it connects to your current sense of self. So for example, that's Aries energy is the energy of how you're able to initiate and start something. And then Taurus is the energy that stabilizes it, creates it, manifests it in the physical world. So look at the astrological sun sign before your sun sign for what you maybe haven't tapped into to work with. Now, you could have planets or points in that blind spot energy. You could have your Mercury in the previous sign. You could have your Mars, Venus, whatever. But know that that's energy you can access. And I call it the blind spot because you can forget it's there. When you're in your comfort zone of your sun sign, you can forget what's behind you. And yet you have access to that, as that supports the progression of energy that we're moving through and what you're developing in yourself. Now, the second energy I want to highlight is known as, in progressions, we call it your progressive sun sign, but it's the energy that comes next. So if your sun is in Taurus, you're stepping into, in this life, learning more about Gemini. the next sun sign, the next astrological sign. And that's because through the progressions that you go through in your life, your progressed sun is going to be in Gemini at some point in your life. So you're taking that initial sun sign energy, sun in Taurus, you're progressing it, moving it into Gemini. And at some point in your life, you're going to really be amplifying that sun sign energy. So that comes along later on in your life. But this is how, when you think about the full wheel of the zodiac, every astrological sign is different. It's very different from the one before it and the one after it. And this is where you're learning more about what you're developing, what you're becoming through that next sun sign. And what's interesting is that it's always going to be the next, it's going to be a different element. The sun in Taurus is feminine, so the sun in Gemini is masculine. There's energies here that help you balance who you are, balance what you're about, balance more of who you are, and to keep developing in this lifetime. And then the other energy that I want to bring to your attention is the balancing energy, which is the astrological sign exactly opposite of your sun sign, the furthest away. So the sun in Taurus is going to be balanced by Scorpio. And that is providing you with an objective understanding, more of how to step out of yourself, how to see things from a different angle, from a different perspective. Now, in the book here, I go into more of this and go into kind of more of that deep dive of what that means, what that looks like, why that's important. And essentially what you're harnessing is that your sun sign is never just on its own, operating in its own energy. You're always connected to other energies. And when you're aware of this in yourself, it creates this unique, special formula that's your own to work with. So for example, when that sun in Taurus is feeling stuck or isn't seeing the deeper meaning of something, it can access that sun in Scorpio energy to go into the feelings, into the emotions. What's the passion? What's the drive? And when you're understanding that is part of energy you can access, it helps you like connect even more of who you are, seeing yourself, understanding what you can do with your energy. And also, these are connection points. Like, this is a new way to look at your chart and understand more of how you can grow and develop. So those are some things to understand about your sun sign, is that it's connected to more than what we see, than what first meets the eye. And this could be a way to further develop what you're growing and understanding about yourself in this lifetime. So that is your sun sign. I want to go deeper into your moon sign, because I feel like there's a lot of beautiful potential that the moon sign holds. So for all the ways that your sun sign is your sense of self, what people see, how they know you, right? That's more of even our stronger self-identity. The moon is internal, private, what we don't always reveal, what we don't always show others. And the moon sign can hold a lot of our unconscious and subconscious energies. And so we need a time of birth, right? That's how we can determine your exact moon sign by degree and minute. Your birth time is very important in the world of astrology. But there's even more that goes into that with the moon. So when you think about when you made your physical arrival into this human experience, you were birthed, right? You were birthed and you came through a biological mother or a surrogate. You came through some other energy force. And at the moment when the umbilical cord was cut is when you became your own energy. You separated from the womb, from that safety of being in another being's energy and having the sustenance and everything that was supporting you. You became your own energy the minute that umbilical cord was cut. And ideally in astrology, we're looking for that. Like, we want to know, when did you become your own unique individual energy? You separated from the womb, from the mother, and you were on your own. You were fully then in basic survival mode, because that moon, that lunar energy essentially encapsulates your first unconscious experience of being in your body. So your moon sign describes your birth, describes your unconscious imprint of energy of being born. And that moon can really highlight how that felt for you, like what that first experience of life was for you. And then when you look at the moon with the various aspects to it, it tells us more about what your first moments of arrival in your physical body were about. Now, this can show where perhaps there was some trauma or medical issues at birth. This could show where you arrived very welcomed, loving, peaceful, you were celebrated. This can show more about maybe what your mother or your family went through upon your arrival. This shows more of what you were unconsciously holding and feeling, again, when you were your own individual energy. And then as you have become more conscious of yourself, you become more aware of what those unconscious energies were and what that first felt like for your soul to arrive in a human body. And your moon can connect you to that. So this can be its own deep dive. I mean, you could go down a big rabbit hole looking at your moon, especially if it has many aspects or various things interacting with it. But that moon is meant to capture your first breath of life. Typically when a baby is born, it's when they're screaming and wailing, and that's always a good sign. That's what they want to see. But it shows you what, again, that first feeling, that first emotional imprint was when you were on your own. Now, this also then connects, when you think of the umbilical cord, that energy can connect to what you're carrying from your mother's lineage, what is unconscious from your ancestors, what you're holding, what you have really, it's like genetically, how you've been genetically influenced. But energetically speaking, you could be holding so much more that your moon sign can show you and reveal. And that moon sign, it's something that, we talk about it in terms of, okay, well, this is what I need emotionally. This is my private life. We know all of these kind of general understandings of the moon. But what I want to open you up to is a broader perspective that could even give you insights, even intuitively, of your karma with your mom, your connection to your family lineage, more about, why you chose to arrive in a certain way, at a certain place. The moon can be very intuitive, and it can be a great way to dive into more intuitive messages in your soul's journey and what you're understanding about this lifetime for you. So you can also see more of what you might be both consciously and unconsciously clearing from your mother's side, or just at a soul level, what emotional imprints you arrived with, what came through, what was important for you to arrive with in this lifetime. Because as you become more conscious of your moon, there's energies you start to clear out. There's things you start to understand, think about how the moon ebbs and flows. Think about how the moon orbits around the earth and how the moon is with us, connected to us, but it's always in motion. And there's parts of our energy that we're meant to have in motion. We're meant to clear out. We're meant to move through. So understand that your moon can give you some important and vital messages around not only your soul's first energetic experience of being in the body, what that felt like when you energetically arrived, what it felt like to separate from the safety and security of the womb, but then also what it has opened up for you throughout your life. So there's a lot with the moon. There is a lot with the moon. And that could be something too that, if you're interested in more of this, you could feel it. You could start to feel some of these messages coming through, or some things that might speak to you. Now, keep in mind, with the moon, it's your experience of your birth. And this is why in a family with, multiple children, multiple kids, when everyone has a different moon sign, they're going to have different aspects to the moon because they have a different experience of arriving, even though you have the same mother. And even though, your mother is going to have different experiences of each birth as well. So then I know people ask, well, what about twins? What about triplets? Well, they're still their own souls, their individual energies. So what you're looking at is basically how to individuate your energy and understand it at a deeper level, at a soul level, at an energetic level, and what that does, like how that speaks to you. So there's a lot there with the moon, but I hope that opens up some new understandings of what you've been working through emotionally in this lifetime, especially as it pertains to your mom's side of the family, your lineage, your ancestors, but then also, again, your soul's clearing, what your soul is emotionally evolving in this lifetime. Okay, Mercury. Let's talk Mercury here. Your Mercury is, of course, how you communicate, how you think, how you talk, how you speak. Mercury is the fastest moving planet, and it's always within 2 astrological signs of the sun. So if the sun is in Taurus, Mercury will either be in Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, or Cancer. So Mercury travels near the sun and is the fastest, and it's connected with your mental processes, how you think, how you learn, how you speak. Energetically, it can reinforce our throat chakra, how you're able to talk, the ways that you prefer to speak or speak up, your skills with that, your gifts with that. It can also show, more of what you're interested in, the information and stimuli that you seek out. And because we are just surrounded by so much information these days, pick up your phone, right? And instantly you're going to be bombarded with all kinds of facts, all kinds of information. We can easily be trapped in our own minds. We can be trapped in our own perspectives and in how we've always consumed information, how we've always taken things in, how we've always just, read something or interpreted it. And this can, of course, be a strength. This can be something that gives you confidence in your brain, confidence in how you think and what you want to say. But part of this Mercury energy is that Mercury is a small planet. It's small. And so sometimes we can have some limited energies, limited perspectives around how we think, how we process. And one of the best things you can do is essentially step out of your own thought processes and see it from a different angle. Understand information in a different way, kind of like challenge yourself, stretch yourself to consider the other side of the coin, other opinions, other perspectives, all of that. And this is also a way, and I'm just like, this is just how I've intuitively seen it, is that typically we know that we're stronger on our right brain or our left brain, right? There, you could just have a natural tendency to be stronger or feel like one side of your brain is more developed, so to speak, or just easier to access, easier to use. And that would be where your Mercury is comfortable, right? That's where your Mercury excels. It's like home base. It's just where it hangs out. What you can do here is look at the opposite Mercury sign from your natal Mercury to support the balancing process, the mental balancing process, to access more parts of a story or information, to work on how you can feel like you're not limited or trapped into one perspective. You can expand. It's like expanding the brain, expanding what we are mentally capable of by seeing things from that different angle. So part of what we consciously do and actively do is basically access the opposite Mercury sign from your natal Mercury and look at well, what would that Mercury sign consider, think about, or say? And this is something that takes practice because it's not where we go initially, right? It's not what we think about. But it's a way to keep, like, I see it as keeping the neurological pathways growing and opening. And I am not a scientist. I have no idea if that's really what it is, but that's what it feels like. Like, it feels like the more that we're able to stay aware, to stay open, to keep stretching ourselves, there could be more that you're able to understand and tap into that really serves you and continues to keep your, I mean, I see this as not only, like, keeping us growing in our knowledge and information, but I feel like it expands us energetically. And I even feel like if we were to go, a little bit further with this, it's sort of like you could tap into other parts of your own energy that you wouldn't normally access, because now you're intentionally moving out of your typical thought patterns or your typical brain waves, and you're wanting to see something from a different perspective, a different angle. You want more information, different information. So look at your opposite Mercury sign. So in my example, I was talking about having Sun in Taurus. We'll also say Mercury in Taurus. So then the opposite would be accessing, well, how would Mercury in Scorpio dive into this or pursue this? And that is, of course, the detective, the researcher. Scorpio wants to go deep, wants to look at what's under the surface. So this is how you're able to keep your mind growing, stretching, expanding through astrology. And think of what that could open up, new questions to consider, new opinions, as I said, new beliefs, new ways of seeing the world that could also feel like it's helping you grow your energy and stretch into new parts of yourself. So I want to offer that as a way to keep your energy growing, to keep awakening to more of what you can consciously tap into when that's your intention. And of course, it always comes down to intention, because, we don't have to do anything, right? You don't have to change how you see something or what you're saying and how you do so. So there's intention behind this, right? The intention to grow, the intention to learn more. So trust what feels right for you, but that Mercury can have some really beautiful insights when it begins to grow and step out of the limitations of our minds that we're not always aware of. Because again, think about how much energy we put into thinking, and think about how it's a comfort zone, right? Like, how your mind works is natural for you. It's been natural for you your whole life. So this is just a way to stretch that energy and to consider things from a different angle and different perspective. Okay. Next up, Venus. So your Venus sign is going to connect you with what you need to receive, what feels good for you. It can show you where you're developing confidence in who you are, how you feel good about yourself. It's connected to our feminine energies. It's connected to the parts of us that want to show up in a certain way. Venus is about also our creativity, how we feel good expressing ourselves, making something. And it does have a very solid, it's like a foundational energy of how you love yourself, how you accept yourself, what you value, what matters to you in this life. And your Venus sign shows you more of what that energy is for you. But typically what happens is that there can be some bumps and bruises with the Venus energy as we're learning about how to love ourselves, learning how to accept ourselves. And Venus can open us up to some of the biggest things you're healing in this lifetime around any of those themes. Certainly around love, relationships, friendships, about how you're honoring your creativity and what you need to feel good about yourself. It can certainly relate to your connection to money, finances. Again, that stems from our worthiness. This can also show you what you were unconsciously taught about money, about love, about relationships from other women, whether that was from a mother or a sister or an aunt. And this is, going into kind of more primal energies when you were younger, when you were, just kind of an observer and figuring things out. That Venus energy is looking for a way to be energetically connected to a deeper sense of loving yourself. And so when you are aware of your Venus sign, you become aware of, again, some of those bumps and bruises, some of those things that didn't feel good, that weren't loving, that didn't value you. And that will highlight for you what you're healing in this lifetime, what you are awakening to in yourself around these Venus themes. And it can provide you with the understanding of what you're ready to heal now that maybe you've carried across multiple lifetimes. And this is very individual. I mean, there's so many different ways this can play out, but it's understanding that, there's the highest and best expressions of divine feminine energies that we want to embody or we want to experience regularly. But it's often not something that unfolds that way. It's often not the case. So when you look at your Venus sign, you can look back on some of your relationships, whether those were like first relationships, first love or romantic relationships. You can look at your relationship to money and finances, what's been triggered for you there, what's come up for you there. What have those themes been for you? Because ultimately, the higher awakened Venus energy wants you to move through that, wants you to know you can move past that, wants you to know that you are loved and supported and guided by the universe to get through those temporary bumps and bruises so that you can get on the other side and essentially have like a higher foundation of self-love and self-value that maybe you weren't taught or demonstrated. Maybe it's something you've just been like figuring out in the dark as you go. But this Venus, she's a guide, and she is guiding you towards what you're truly loving about yourself on your own terms. And she wants you to look at, well, what needs to be healed, because that's part of your power and that's part of how you're loving yourself. So your Venus can show you some of the themes that you're healing that at first tend to appear outside of us, right? Whether it's something with, finances, like if you have, let's say, a poverty consciousness your whole life, and that's what you were taught, or that's what you observed because that's what your parents were about, that was one of their unconscious value systems. And maybe something comes up in your life and you realize, I don't want to perceive it that way. I don't want to hold or carry that energy anymore. So there's things here that Venus is revealing to you, and she wants you to elevate it. And your Venus sign, she can be softer, a bit more passive. I mean, it depends on the astrological sign she's in, as well as other things in a chart. But the Venus energy, she wants you to remember that you arrived here to understand more about loving yourself and going into that innate energy, which of course then affects everything else, right? Affects how you feel about creating and expressing yourself, and how you feel about, showing up in a hot new dress or something that gives you confidence. Like, she shows you more of how you're here to be in love with yourself. And yet you could have a lot of lessons that take you away from that. So as you awaken to more of your Venus, you could identify what some of these themes have been. You could also see it in other Venus archetypes. I mean, this can be related to women, sisters, friends, women that you grew up with, people that were in your peer group. This can show you your own interactions with women that have been maybe unconscious or you haven't been aware of. And this Venus wants to guide you through and help you connect to more of your divine feminine expressions of those same energies. So there's a lot more here that she can offer you, and it could just help you to understand maybe why certain things have transpired for you the way they have, why certain people have shown up and certain lessons, but also why some people have been really validating for you, or like good reminders of how to love yourself, how to accept yourself, all those good things that we need in people around us. So Venus, she holds a lot for us, but she's also that beautiful guide into essentially reminding how to be in love with who you are. Okay, Mars. Now we're talking Mars. This is the last one. So as we know, Venus is about feminine, Mars is masculine. And the Mars energy tends to be much more physical, active, can be more about how you assert yourself. Mars is connected to your body, how you run energy through your body, how you feel energy on a daily basis. That Mars, if you have a strong Mars, then maybe you need a lot of activity every day. You know, you're an athlete, or there's things that you need to do to move energy through you. Mars can show us what we will fight for, what we want, how we will assert ourselves. Mars is connected to our sexuality, how we express ourselves physically, and also how we feel confident and strong in ourselves. It's that healthy ego. Because we hear a lot about, an unhealthy ego and the false ego, but a healthy Mars is going to help you be confident in who you are and allow that to be something that provides you with strength. So when you're looking at your Mars, similar to Venus, Mars can show you maybe parts of yourself that are no longer connected to your self-identity. Mars can be immature, or Mars can fight for things that don't matter. Sometimes that Mars energy can be dispersed and it's like scattered, and you don't have a goal. You don't know what your goal is. There can be a lack of direction. What this Mars can guide you through is to develop more of what you want in this lifetime and how you go about getting it. Because Mars is a how. When you think about Mars as a different vehicles, okay? The Mars in like a fire sign, well, fire wants to go fast. So, you get a speedy racer or some kind of vehicle that goes really quick. Mars in a water sign, maybe that is a submarine. Maybe that's something under the surface. The Mars is your how, like how you go after what you want. So it's important to understand that, because it's going to explain how you show up, how you go for things, how you are able to run energy through your body again, what feels comfortable. Of course, so many ways to look at Mars, but I feel like what Mars is guiding us to is the divine masculine energies that you're here to embody, and what you're here to essentially love and accept about yourself with confidence, in a way that isn't about taking over or dominating. Sometimes that Mars can be very aggressive. That Mars can be a lot at times. But then Mars is going to show you, similar to Venus, the healing work and the shadow work that you're here to do around this Mars energy in your chart. And again, oftentimes it shows up as people, as archetypes. This can be brothers, men. This can be people who have a very strong masculine or Mars energy. These can be individuals who maybe challenge you, who bring up something that puts you on the spot and asks you, what are you going to do about this? Mars relates to our fight or flight or freeze, right? Fight, flight, freeze. So Mars shows you how you handle the energies of life, how you move through the energies of life. But first, it shows you oftentimes how to get stronger, how to become more confident in your energy, but to do so at a very, clear, in a very clear way, not in a false ego way, and not as if you have to prove something or demonstrate something. This Mars is developing confidence in himself so that you're able to show up and essentially be who you are in that place of full self-acceptance. This can also relate to loving your body, just fully accepting this is my body, this is my physical self, this is my sexuality, this is who I am in my body. I mean, this all relates. It's like you start to, there's all these strings that start to come together and show up. This Mars really wants you to feel strong and confident in your body. That could be the work that your Mars is showing you. If you've had issues with your body, if there's things you've had around your physical self or your sexuality, maybe that's what this Mars is guiding you through or teaching you. So this is very personal stuff, but this is where you understand more of your life patterns or things that you've been through, and you're like, well, why does this affect me so much? Or what am I feeling around this? These personal planets can reveal more of that. Mars can bring up your desires, your unhealthy desires, your healthy desires. It can bring up limitations. Because Mars is about how you go for something, Mars can bring up if you self-sabotage, or if you're like, I'm not good enough for that, or like if there's a stopping point that you have that's a pattern in your life, it could be your Mars. It could be your Mars. So this would be something to look at as you look at what your Mars sign is, and you go into, well, what are the themes that I've been through with this Mars? Because ultimately, just like Venus, Mars wants to help you get to the other side. Mars wants you to heal this, to identify it, to work on it, and then get you to the other side so that you can be in that place within yourself that is strong, confident, and clear. And keep in mind both the Venus and the Mars energies, even though I talk about them in terms of divine feminine, divine masculine, they're energies within each of us, within all of us, regardless of gender and sex. And some are going to be stronger. So you could have a very strong Venus and a weaker Mars, or you could have a very strong Mars and a weaker Venus, or you could have both that are strong. So this is part of your individual formula and just knowing yourself and knowing your chart. Because it's astrology and you can always go deeper, you can then start to look at the aspects to your Venus and the aspects to your Mars. If that's what you want to dive into, and I know many of you are advanced and maybe you already know that, but essentially the aspects to any of these personal planets are essentially a conversation with another planet. And so if your Venus is in a trine to Saturn, that trine from Saturn stabilizes Venus, helps her mature, helps her get clear on what she's doing and believing in herself, etc. That Mars, if that Mars has a square from Neptune, well, that Neptune can diffuse Mars, can take away Mars's energy, can remove some of that confidence at times. So as you go into your chart more, you start to see how the conversation between the planets expands, and there's more information to look at and to take in. Now, to be fair, the aspects are actually beyond the scope of this book, simply because there's so many aspects. It'd be too hard to include them all. But the main intention of this book that I hope it gives you some new insights and things to understand is that you have so much in your chart that wants to support you. And when we open up our perspectives on that, when we start to see it in a new way or a different way, it's like you can start to see more of what you didn't notice before, maybe what was hidden, of some new ways of approaching something as well. And I've mentioned this on my podcast too, that, even for all the years I've studied astrology, I can still see something new. Like, that's what's so fascinating about your astrology chart. It's like this very beautiful mandala of energy, and you can notice something different that you didn't see before when you look at it with new eyes or in a new way. So There's always more to go into, there's always more to explore, but I hope that this overview here of these 5 personal planets gives you some more things to look at, to consider, to sit with, to expand your mind, expand your consciousness, and understand too how the full astrology chart is all of your energy. It's all of your energy to work with, to elevate, to evolve. It's all yours to work with. And it's really a never ending ride. And that's really what makes astrology so cool, too, is that you can always go into something more or see it from a different angle. So I've just been talking nonstop, as I tend to do. Was there anything that you wanted to offer or share, Jamie? I caught you off guard. I stopped talking. Okay, I can't hear. So, okay. Well, I think we're done. I don't have anything else to say, anything else more to say, unless you do. But I'm so grateful for all of you who joined me here, who came in. There will be a replay as well. And in terms of the worksheet, you know, of course you can write on it or just, you know, things to think about, things to be aware of. But understand too that this is a wonderful way to keep trusting yourself. Because astrology can be very much, you know, very academic, and there's a lot of things that go into like understanding the basics. But as you know your chart more, you're going to start to sense things, feel things, get messages around things. And it's so important to trust that. It really is. So I hope there's some things here that open you up to more of your own energy, also give you insights into more of what is speaking to you. It's energetically speaking to you, intuitively speaking to you, all that stuff that your chart is waiting to reveal to you and more of.